Welcome, folks. Episode 651 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse coming your way as we do normally every Sunday at 8 o'clock in the UK, 12 o'clock Pacific time in the United States. You can find out more about us, patreon.com/boxing asylum. Get in on more of the fun. We are also part of the Sports Social Network. And I'm here with James. I'm here with Justin to discuss another big action or another big weekend of action. This that we had over the last couple days here, really over a 12-hour span ultimately, but it was a fun 12-hour span that I was able to pretty much stay awake for. Kick it off with Ryan Garcia taking basically a sweeping all 12 rounds against Mario Barrios, dropping him in the first with a right hand, folks, not that vaunted left hook, with a right hand, which was definitely much the story of the fight. And is just kind of on cruise control. Joe Goosen was right. Garcia can't fight going backwards. Barrios didn't put him on him enough. And Garcia can officially claim to be a world champion. It looks like Shakur Stevenson wants some of that smoke. We'll see if they get that going. Shakur just running up those weight classes. You kind of got to respect that. At the end of the day, you find someone who can produce a little bit of a payday, and yeah, let's go grab a belt in the process. Whatever, I like it. But I'll tell you what, Justin, I hated basically every minute of this. I don't like Ryan Garcia. I don't think he's a very good person. He's incredibly inconsistent in the ring, and sometimes he makes you look brilliant, and sometimes he makes you look incredibly stupid. And this weekend, he made me look incredibly stupid. I hate the son of a bitch.
Well, we've talked about Barrios before. He's good. He's not great. He's not bad. He's not above average. He's just good. He's solid. He doesn't do anything well. He just does everything okay. And Garcia was definitely he showed up more than he did versus Romero. It looked like he took it a little bit more seriously.
No, he was fast. He was
And
sharp. His
and
athleticism was on display.
and we knew that if Garcia was 50-60% of what he could be, that he was just going to be too much for Barrios. And he was. Barrios is one of these guys that if I don't know, you should be able to beat him. He is what he is. He's such an last night was perfect example of how really average Barrios is.
It tells you how weak the welterweight
Yeah,
division
he
is.
is
That
that
he's
he
a
was a
tightless
yes.
kind of. Yeah, I like Mario.
Well,
I've always been fond of
how
him.
bad is it that
He's
you're the
got a lot
champion?
to like,
How
but
bad is it you're the champion and you're ranked like 10th in the division?
yeah,
That's kind
yeah.
of and you know what? That's what he is. He's 10th, probably 8th, 10th best, and that's where he's ranked, and that's what he should be. And Garcia just had to show up, do what he needed to do, and he was going to win that fight, and he did. I think he should have actually stopped Barrios.
Probably.
Honestly, he should have put his foot on the gas. It's funny when he knocked him down. You notice I wouldn't say. I think maybe it surprised him it had to surprise him that he knocked him down so quick.
It
Because I
definitely
don't.
surprised Barrios.
Yeah, it did. And he should have stopped it, but who cares? He won. He did what he was supposed to do. I don't like Garcia. I don't really give a shit about Barrios either. But Garcia did what he was supposed to do, and he won. He beat a guy that he should beat. He did that. He didn't do that versus Romero, whatever reason they can come up with. Maybe this is the weight class he needed to be at. I don't know. Well, if he fights Shakur will beat him. I have no doubt in my mind that Shakur Stevenson will beat him. Just Shakur's just better. I think he'll beat Garcia. And Garcia last night beat an average ass top 10, 12 guy and did what he's supposed to. Barrios in a really good welterweight era would have 7 or 8 losses and wouldn't even have got close to a world title in a good era. He kind of weaved his way in. He did what he had to do, and it's done.
Yeah, and our man Michael Thompson saying didn't think Garcia looked that amazing. Seemed quite wild and has his chin up a lot. Still smacks Ben around though if they end up fighting. And I basically agree with you on your points there. But here's the thing about Garcia. And James will send this to you as I'm kind of thinking it over with his hot and cold performances. The fact that he's just clearly absolutely batshit, I think that a really good comparison to Garcia, James, is probably Teofimo Lopez, and they are incredible based on their athleticism and what they can do on with it, and they'd probably be good at any number of sports had they decide to invest their time there. But they just happen to be boxers, and they're pretty good at it because they're athletes. But that doesn't make them elite. They're not elite boxers because they're elite athletes.
Yeah, they're ultimately destined to come second best to fighters with elite fundamentals. I mean,
Ring IQ, yeah.
yeah,
Except like
with
Devin Haney, I
Garcia,
mean that was still fucking nuts, like that one. But then it's a no contest. He was on some shit. There's just so many damn questions with this guy. I hate it.
yeah. Well, yesterday you might be forgiven for wondering the same thing because I'd go a step further than Justin and say that Barrios was a poor version of an average fighter last night, and Garcia was able to just put hands on him whenever he wanted and get away with little to no repercussions. And Garcia's got really quick hands, but he hasn't got the quickest feet, and he was still able to raid with impunity. The right hand looked really good, but I also feel like he's quite untidy, especially when he lets longer combinations go, and his chin does pop up in the air. And
That's how he fights. That's always how he's
yeah,
fought. Upright, chin
it,
up. You know.
yeah, and that I suppose lets him see what he needs to see to launch his left hook the way he does. And I thought I was quite impressed the way he used the threat of the left hook to get his right hand off yesterday. And then when his right hand started landing more, he brought the left hook to the body into play. It was a really measured performance, and he was quite slippery. You know, Barrios every once in a while would deign to push him up against the ropes, and Garcia was able to escape pretty easily. It was a really, given his temperament, I would say it was a very calm, measured, mature performance. And looking at the rankings right now, speaking to the state of welterweight, with the current crop of champions, it's a feasible thing that Ryan Garcia could become undisputed at 147 in the near future.
Yeah, it's not nuts at all. It's kind of crazy when you consider like
And Barrios doesn't have enough dog in him either. I don't think he
he's
has
too
enough.
nice.
He's
He
way
mentioned that, and I
his
thought, right, Garcia's a dickhead.
he
He'll
even
get
has
mean with
like
him.
you said, Barrios is an average fighter with an average personality. He's just like wet bread. There's just nothing. He just doesn't have enough. Like Pacquiao, he could have actually stopped or beat up a more Pacquiao. He doesn't have enough dog in him. He could have pushed Garcia, and Garcia could have broke last night if he would just had a little bit more. He just doesn't have that. And some guys do, some guys don't. He doesn't have that gear. That's just not who he is.
Barrios kind of makes me think of something they said on South Park about Butters. They're like, Butters is that kind of guy where you just can't remember if he was there or not.
That's it. that is Barrios. It's like he's one of these guys. 10 years from now, when he retires, you're not even going to barely remember him. Like he's going to be one of these people that they bring up his name and they're like, who? And he's going to be that guy. Oh, is that the guy that did he fight the old Pacquiao? That's how he's going to be remembered because he's not going to leave a mark on this business at all.
But what's amazing is like, and you got to give him credit on this because like it's you can't hate him for it. He just like like they say the first part of succeeding is just showing up, and like Barrios was there, like he was on that undercard. He took that opportunity against that fighter that other guys didn't want to face and shit like that. Like he just like, okay, I'll do it. And through being a pretty again like just kind of a ho-hum fighter that I'm kind of fond of just because he just again he seems like a decent enough dude, but he he's made a shit ton of money off of being like tremendously mediocre, but like not again like he's earned it just by being good enough and by showing up where necessary, where a guy like Connor Ben got it off of controversy and his last name. Like it's unreal how much money that guy's made from not being shit whatsoever. Whereas Barrios, I mean, he might not be that great in the ring, but look at his resume. I mean, he's fought a number of good fucking fighters. He's fought Manny Pacquiao. He's fought Gervonta Davis. He's fought Keith Thurman. This guy, he's got a fairly solid resume, and he's just an average ho-hum fighter. But God, you got to think in the last since COVID, God, Justin, I bet he's banked 7 figures in purses in
he
that
had to
time,
have-
or
I mean-
not, or 8. Excuse me, it would be 8 figures. Yeah, 8. Like he's
Last
at
night-
10 million plus.
Last night was at least $1 million plus.
Oh, that was probably
Probably
2, 3,
yeah.
some or better.
Because
yeah.
I mean,
It was
there's
an
no
$80 pay-per-view.
Yeah,
Give the guy some change.
There's no way that because Garcia. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Garcia. I guarantee Garcia got paid more probably than him. If you want to, I guarantee they wrangled that somehow. They worked that system out, but it is what it is. Garcia actually should never even been in the fucking ring last night. There's no way he deserved a title shot. They went and picked up, and like this is what the 6th straight guy that's picked Barrios as the weak link guy they want to go after, and he got him. Pacquiao tried it, didn't make it. The other guy he got a draw with tried it, he couldn't do it. I'll give Garcia credit. He picked the easy hanging fruit, low hanging fruit. He finally picked it. So I mean, Barrios, they have been coming for him for a while. Davis started it. Then he had the 2 draws that guys were trying to pick him off, and Garcia finally finished it.
Yeah, and Barrios should be able to like retire comfortably now, and there's nothing wrong with that. Good for him.
No, he won't retire. He's like I said, he's still decent enough that he's going to be in decent. He's going to be an okay. None of his fights are ever been. I would never say, "Oh, that Barrios fight was incredible." That's just his style, and that's just how he is. He's like the welterweight Badu Jack. That's just who he's going to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like Badu Jack. We all respect him.
I think he's of a better skill level than Barrios, though.
Yeah, he is. But like I said, sort of the same kind of career and personality. It's like
we
all love Jack.
Draws.
Yeah, we like Jack. He's a solid dude. He's a really good professional. But you're not going to be running home on Saturday night to watch Badu Jack. We all respect him, and I think Barrios is in that kind of. And there's fuck. If I can be considered an average fighter for my career and still make $10 or $12 million, then hell, call me average, below average. I don't care. Whatever you want. It don't matter.
It's just funny. Like Badu Jack's, like a 3-division champion with a pretty fair resume. Probably at least as good, if not better, than Adrian Broner's. But like at the same time, like he could walk into a goddamn mega fight and people would be like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
He's like watching paint dry. Nobody.
I would say he's been in some fights.
Yeah, but I still don't get up. I don't care.
It's just that it's not so much that his fights are boring. It's that Badu Jack like finds a way to do just enough to make the fight controversial, no matter where it ends up.
Even when he's in a good fight, you can still see he's not going to go. Even if he is throwing, you keep thinking to yourself, "Man, he could do more." Like he should do something else, and that's why they're always freaking draws.
Yep, they're always freaking draws. And I'm actually going to take that segue to kind of skip around that card a little bit. In a fight that was exceptionally entertaining, fought at a very high level, at least in my opinion. You had Frank Martin and Nahir Albright, who ended up going 10 rounds to a draw, as in all 3 cards, 95-95. You don't see that very often. It was a very close fight. Nip and tuck, a little pick your flavor in the first rounds. Then Martin came on really well. And then Nahir Albright figured him out from in rounds like maybe 7 and 8 and evened it up. And then in 9, Frank Martin looked fantastic. But then the 10th round, Nahir Albright really hurt Frank Martin. He found some shots, had him in all sorts of trouble. And then he lost his own fucking mouthpiece, stopping his momentum not once, but I think twice in that round.
He spit his mouthpiece out twice.
And I don't think he spit. I think he lost it. I think it was just like excited, mouth open, going for it kind of stuff. Because there's no way you'd spit it out on purpose when the other guy's on the fucking hook, right?
Yes, that's the wrong word, spit it out. It just fell out.
Yeah. But I mean, and a great round in the 10th to come out with the draw. If you would have been able to put Martin down, he would have been able to get the win. Finally, a signature win. Well, not necessarily. I mean, I was going to say his first real signature win, but he has the win over the lesser talented Davis. But this is a fun fight. They say run it back. I thought that this. I thought Albright was a real live dog for a reason. Shakur picked him before the fight, made me feel better. But that draw I'm perfectly comfortable with. It was reasonable. And it just, again, this fight was fought at a really high level.
Yeah.
Definitely higher level than the main event. Definitely.
I think the only reason Martin takes the rematch is if they can't find something else. I don't think he has any desire to try to go back into that because he was the A side in that fight, if you want to look at it that way. I don't think he's going to have any reason to want to go back into it unless there's just not a lot of options. And they're like, hey, this is it. We don't have a title shot, or you got to kind of fight Albright again, so I think we'll see it again. It might not be next, but I like Albright. He is an honest pro they always talk about.
Yeah.
He's going to show up. He doesn't talk a lot of shit. He just gets in there and works. And man, if he'd have kept that damn mouthpiece in, he definitely, I think, would have knocked him down. I don't know if he'd have stopped him, but he would have knocked him down. He lost what, 30 or 45 seconds right in the middle of hammering him. And I can't blame the referee. The referee had
the right thing to do. There was technically a break in the action, especially since he was the fighter on the front foot, if anything.
Well, especially with the second time when it went flying out, he wouldn't even punch it. I can't blame the referee for that. He didn't. Some of these referees will stop it when the guy's punching, and you get pissed. But he did the right thing. It is what it is. But yeah, Martin, I think we've said on here before. Martin is what he is. He's nothing special. He's a good fighter. He's not anything to write home about.
I don't know. I think that's why I just don't think at a real high level. I think this was two guys who were legit, kind of B plusy kind of guys going at it. And like I said, I think this fight was fought at a higher level than Barrios and Garcia.
It was because it definitely was. The Barrios Garcia was a one pace type fight. It was just, it kind of played out. Every round was the same. This fight had a lot of ebbs and flows, and each guy was getting off kind of what he wanted to do at different rounds, and it was a good fight.
Yeah, that was absolutely a good fight, and for those who might have missed it, I highly recommend it. Definitely some fun moments, some good shots, but just some nice ebbs and flows. Guys making adjustments with shots they're throwing, with what they're doing with their feet. It was a worthwhile watch, and that was before we saw a very entertaining fight between Japanese Andy Haraoka, that is, and one of the many Gary Russells, the 140 Gary Russell, in a fight that I thought that Russell was really controlling early with Haraoka, kind of afraid to engage and just looking to land the jab from distance and hopefully a long left and keep it at range. And then all of a sudden he decided, basically, screw that, I'm going to fight on the inside. And he started smoking Russell with some body shots. And it was a real vicious affair at times, touch and go. I think both guys getting hurt, but what ultimately I thought could have decided on the scorecards, even though they were wider, was a point deduction against Haraoka after a second low blow call. And my God, this low blow, Justin, was one of the more vicious ones I remember. I was shocked the Russell didn't take the full 5 minutes. It was one of those ones.
It hit him in the asshole.
Where he shoved, punched his testicles into his pelvis, straight up. It was
Sergio Moore, I think is what it said. I think he hit him in the asshole too. It was so low. He wrapped around underneath him almost, is how low that blow was. That was, we all watched boxing for a long time. That's definitely one of the top 5 worst I've ever seen. It was brutally low. And they kept saying, well, Gary Russell was ducking. He really wasn't ducking. I mean, damn, it was just, even if he'd have been standing up straight, it still would have hit him in the nuts. It was that low. It wouldn't have mattered. And he should have took the 5 minutes because he was hurting when he got back up. He should have took the whole 5 minutes.
Well, I think since there was 2 real nasty ones in a point deduction, I think he probably could have gotten one in himself. And I think that's one of those things as a pro when you got to get your own lick in. And he probably should have, and just slowed down Haraoka a bit there. But it's
like the old Fight Night game. If you push that button, it does the low blow.
That's
what he should have done. He should have come out. But I think it was funny when Haraoka come out in the Michael Jackson leather outfit was funny as well. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But Haraoka, that is some of the best body work you're going to see in boxing. There was at times when he was throwing 15, 20 in a row. And I'll give Russell this. I don't think he's anything special either, but Russell is a man. because to take as many as those, and those were landing viciously. Like
They're
he
like
had,
lifting him off the
and he
ground. Like
took,
he was
everyone.
like
He took
he was shoe
everyone.
shining
Yeah.
Haraoka, and Haraoka was digging in, and yeah.
I think that's the problem is I thought the fight was closer because I think a lot of Russell's work really wasn't doing anything. It looked good. I think that's where he fooled the judges a lot because a lot of his work looked good, but it really wasn't doing anything.
They were scoring, but not necessarily.
Yeah, it was good on the eyes, but Haraoka was actually doing the damage and the real fighting. He just didn't. He just let the first probably 3-4 rounds go, and then he tried to catch it up, and he just left it too late.
Yep, he did. And James, I know you said you only caught the highlights. Anything to say about those two fights that were on the undercard there?
No, I didn't see enough to comment, to be honest with you. I just know Frank Martin from being the one that Gervonta Davis beat, and I didn't really know much about the others. If I was going to have time, I would have caught him today, but no, just the highlights from me.
Yeah, Martin is one of the only people I know of who has been on both sides of a potential knockout of the year, AJ being another one. Knockout from Tank, I think, was pretty vicious. But then he knocked out Rancid Barthélemy with that little blinder 1-2. And that was just about as vicious of a shot as you could see. And honestly, he's looked good at 140. I rate this fight, and I rate both guys. So check that one out. I'm trying to think, what was the was there another fight on there that I had watched? Trying to remember. Justin, what was there something else on there that we missed? I know that I was super bummed that Hitchens and Duarte got called off because Hitchens had trouble after making the weight and like hours before. Like that was a super bummer.
Well, we've said before that Hitchens is killing himself to get down to the weight, and it showed last night. We all knew he was, but he missed that fight yesterday because he is killing himself. They said it. I mean, he was so dehydrated that his body just could not replenish itself.
He's IBF, right? So it's the 10-pound dehydration limit.
And he's definitely way too big for this because he's so big he'll have to move up. We might not see him fight at this weight class again because I believe that he was hurting, and I don't care he was hurting either because he shouldn't be trying to weight bully the weight. If it's not natural for you and you're cheating, I mean, I wouldn't use the word cheating, but in a way it is that you're trying to weight bully. I don't care if you get sick. That's your problem. You should be everybody should fight naturally instead of trying to get an advantage. And he got called out last night. His body just could not respond to it. And I don't blame him. If you wasn't feeling 100%, you didn't want to go in that fight last night versus Duarte. And so I don't blame him for backing out because he would have lost. Hitchens had to be at his best to beat Duarte last night. And if he was 50-50 because he was dehydrated and not feeling well, he would have lost that fight. He got knocked out.
He would have lost that fight in the later rounds.
Yeah, so I don't blame him. I don't blame him, but that kind of ruined the card. It wasn't a great. And then you had Beck the Bully. He beat that
Cena Becco. That's the one that I forgot. I wasn't even paying attention to that.
And Beck actually was going to win the fight regardless because of the headbutt. He was up in the cards. But I like how the fact is he didn't want to win it like that. He went out to knock him out, even with his face just gashed wide open. I mean, you can see the muscle tissue. It was a bad cut, and they let him go. But I like that. He could easily have said, "Forget it. I don't want to do this." But no, he went out there to finish him, and he did. But we're not going to see him for a while. That cut's going to take a long time. We won't see him to next year. That's going to take a long time to heal that thing.
Yeah, and I mean his career's just been slow dragging the whole fucking way. I kind of don't even care.
Yeah.
I didn't really care. Amari Jones was on there. He picked up a quick stoppage of Luis Arias as well. And we'll see where he goes. Still undefeated. He's now 16-0. I think 14 stoppages. So, but anyways, also we go over to the UK. Where Mr. Leigh Wood, he basically did the same thing that Ryan Garcia did, sans the knockout, and he just absolutely blanked Josh Warrington. Warrington couldn't do anything, kept getting caught coming in. Wood fighting with his hands quite low, using his feet a lot. And I think that it was a good example of kind of like a reasonable amount of clinching for the style he was fighting, if you look for an example. But it was just a really clean win for Wood, avoiding those Warrington headbutts. Kind of it's well, not even kind of, just absolutely anticlimactic compared to their last outing. But James Wood now continues on. He looked strong at the weight, and maybe that's just compared to Warrington. But you got to think there's at least another payday out there for Leigh Wood after looking so sharp.
Yeah, potentially, but 37, that's quite old for that weight class, isn't it? And especially after some of the fights he's been in. I feel like, looking back, ever since the Can Zhu fight, he's been in like a load of wars. So
yeah, basically everything's been a battle since then.
Yeah, I do wonder whether, well, isn't this always the question? Is it time to bow out on a good win, decent payday, and sail off into the sunset, or is another payday going to drag you back into the mix? I'd probably say he probably would fight again, but probably with a very delicately selected opponent. I feel like Warrington had real problems covering distance last night. I mean, like, he was reduced to this kind of awkward bob and weave to close in on Wood a lot of the time, and he was kind of restricted to one or two shots at a time. He had to fight.
His hands were working together. If he was moving his feet, he really wasn't able to move his hands, it seemed.
Yeah, he was just sluggish and stuck in the mud. And I feel like he was restricted to kind of fighting like a puncher as well. And we obviously know he's got a rare record in how few knockouts are on there. And he was reduced to one shot at a time because Leigh Wood was able to get in and out. He was able to land straight shots to the body, look for the uppercut and the hook off that, pivot off, and just keep that moving all night long. I didn't enjoy the fight, to be honest. It settled into a monotonous rhythm early on, and Warrington wasn't able to break it, and Wood had no reason to stop doing what he was doing. I don't really see either of these two doing anything outside of the kind of UK bubble, domestic fights that interest local rivalries, etc. So yeah, it was a fine fight, and a decent performance from Wood, like you said. But Warrington did look particularly bad, I felt.
Yeah, it was just, and that's the thing, Justin. I had opined, I thought that this fight might depend on essentially who was more shot, more so than anything stylistic or otherwise. And maybe it was that. I guess ultimately, Justin, this version of Josh Warrington is probably not a good litmus test for what you're capable of moving forward.
His dumb ass should have left the gloves in the ring. That was a joke last night. That was a waste of my time, anybody's time. Leigh Wood is shot to bits. Warrington is junk. He's gone. So of course it worked out, but I think last night Wood just had. He just had a little bit more stamina in his body. I mean, all Warrington did was, I'm going to throw a random right hand, or I'm going to headbutt you. I'm going to come with my head, or I'm going to throw a right hand. Wood didn't even have to really do a whole hell of a lot. He said, let me just bounce a little bit and throw some jabs to the body. It was trash. I don't think Wood will fight again. Why should he? He won the third fight. He got paid. Those guys made too much money last night for the level they're at right now. I don't get it. Maybe it's just me. I have to live over there. I don't understand why people still care. Why people care while they're spending money. Because if you went to that fight thinking you were going to get something exciting, then you just don't know you don't watch boxing. You don't know how it works. That commercial, that stupid cringy commercial, is true on one fact. They're old and washed. They don't need to be doing this anymore. But I'm telling you, they'll fight 10 times if people are willing to pay for it, and they are, which is sad. But Warrington, I think I see Wood retiring before Warrington. I would not be stunned if Warrington didn't come back and try to have some, I think like James said, fight some 18 and 13 guy from like Zimbabwe and Leeds just to finish on a high note and then do the whole laying the gloves down again crap. Wood has nothing to prove. I've always enjoyed Leigh Wood. He is a man's man. I've always enjoyed him. You know what you're going to get. And like James said, why would he change shit last night? He didn't have to engage with him. He didn't have to do shit. He just had to bounce because Warrington had nothing left. It was just simple. You wouldn't say sparring
Oh,
session.
he just chewed him up down the middle.
It was
really
a high
easy.
level sparring session between two guys that really don't. They can say what they want to say. I don't think they really give a shit about each other. Like far as I hate him, that was all contrived bullshit. They just were two dudes that, hey, if they're willing to pay, what do you mean they're going to pay for me to fight him again? Well, hell, I'll take it. I think it was that kind of fight. Well, shit, I'll take to go fight him again for the hell of it. And it was a waste of time. And the whole card, the whole thing was, I didn't enjoy it. I can't. I watched it. I had it on in the background, but I mean, who gives a shit? Leigh Wood, to me, if the bigger question is who had the better career, I think Leigh Wood did. Just because I think you're going to remember Leigh Wood for some of his comebacks, the Conlon comeback and the wars he were in. I think I'll remember him more for that, just because his power, something that Warrington could never really put that exclamation point on any of his bigger wins, but Leigh Wood did. So I've always been a Wood fan. I just don't. This has got to be it. Leigh Wood has nothing to prove now. Who's he gonna? If he fights for
I have a fight for him.
He's gonna get knocked out if he fights anybody good.
I don't know about that. Des is joining the call as well, and Des, let me two-part you here. Number one, what'd you think of Leigh Wood and his win over Warrington? And part two is what would you think about Nick Ball as a comeback as an opponent for Leigh Wood? A little real crossroads there, money to be made, I think.
How you doing, mate? You okay, Matty? Is everyone right?
I'm hanging in there. We do what we can, sir. We do what we can.
Yeah, that's nice. I thought last night. Look, we're in a situation with boxing in Britain where it's feast or famine. You've either got a big, a huge show, a stacked card, a brilliant main event, and there's 200-300 people ringside that are like, sort of Epstein Island rejects. It's a real celebrity event, and everyone's, geared up for boxing. Everyone's talking about it, or we get nothing for 2 or 3 months. So I think, to go to Justin's point, we just want to see a bit more boxing on our TVs. And it hasn't got to be for world titles. It hasn't even got to be a meaningful fight that tells us there's a pathway for the winner. We just want to see something on our telly. So I'd rather last night I'd rather have it than not have it. And I think the main event was between two very recognisable domestic faces who have achieved a lot of domestic success. Both have held world titles. So although it didn't tell us nothing, you're absolutely right. I'd rather have it than not have it. And I thought the undercard was quite interesting. The Chief Support was a really interesting fight. And this card was stacked with a lot of talent that we might see over the next 5 years. So I think that card last night had a place. But what we've got to try and do in boxing is get a little bit centered. We don't need to be told two brilliant fighters, two great fighters. They've never been that. We don't need to be told it's standing room only and it's a sellout event, because it wasn't. Really, in the old days, this would have been at the Alexandra Palace or the Copper Box or something of, sort of 5,000 to 6,000 all-seater venue. And it would have been on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and it would have been what it was. And the kids on the main event would have been getting, I don't know, they'd have been splitting 150 grand between them. But boxing's gone so far the other way now, we really can't afford to put shows on. So it's feast or famine in Britain at the moment for boxing. So I'd rather have this than not have it. With regards to the fight last night, I'll come to that back to your question with Nick Ball, Matty. But with regards to the fight, the main event last night, I don't think anybody thought Josh Warrington was going to win it. But we just wanted to see really how he'd go about navigating himself through the fight and what Leigh Wood would do and what he could offer. And I thought the first round was interesting because Josh looked absolutely shot. He looked like he weren't going to last 5 rounds. And in the second round, Josh made a few adjustments. And the adjustments he made was, I'm going to press, but I'm going to let my hands go while I'm doing it. But Josh has found himself in a little bit juxtaposed. Most of his success will come when he's at close range, letting his hands go. throwing flurries. But that also is probably when Leigh Wood's at his most dangerous because he's a very good short range puncher, hooks and uppercuts. So in that second round, I think Josh realised, although I'm having success, I won't last 6 rounds like at this pace because I'm going to get caught. And Josh has already been in there and felt the power. And I think the second round, it kind of reminded Josh that I can't fight the fight this way. So he went in almost reactive mode. And that was the pattern of the fight. Leigh Wood dictated it, his hands down, southpaw stance. He had that sort of that up jab, and he was throwing sort of arm shots, long backhand hooks. He was looking over reliant on that uppercut from the backhand. And Josh was kind of comfortable surviving and not winning. But Josh will never admit this. Most fighters won't. But I think Josh was quite happy to hear the final bell. That's the win for Josh.
That's what him and Barrios had in common over the weekend. I agree. Is they're just kind of, hey, fuck, we made it to the end.
I totally agree. And they'll never admit that. They'll never say that. But I think in Josh's mind, he thought, just to go to 12, to be in this, to lay a few shots on Leigh, to mark him up, that will do. And I think that was the pattern after round 3 and 4. And it became very predictable. And Justin made a great point there. It was like a high quality sparring match. It was sparring. And they both knew where they stood. And after round 5 or 6, Leigh Wood knew he can't lose this fight. And Josh must have known, I'm not going to win doing this. And I think his father told him, come on, you've got to let your hands go. But it's that situation where if he goes up, if he presses and lets his hands go, he's walking into fire. And Josh hasn't got the punch to do that. And Leigh Wood has. So I think they both made a sort of agreement with each other. This is how we're going to fight the fight. We're going to see this out. And it's probably the very last time we'll see Josh in a pro ring. It should really be the last time we see Leigh Wood in a pro ring, but we probably won't. And that leads me nicely onto your question. I don't know if you'll get Nick Ball, but that's the sort of fight that British boxing does tend to make. Nick Ball's coming off the back of a loss. Leigh Wood's coming off the back of a win. They're both domestic.
Is there any sort of
names.
rivalry between Nottingham and Liverpool?
No, none at all. And you know, there's going to be a lot of work done with Nick Ball. A lot of work. If truth be told, I think that might be the last we see of Leigh Wood. He's been pretty inactive over the last 18 months. Him and Josh know each other. This one was at the Nottingham Arena. It worked, but
they fought each other like in October of 2023 or something like that. I think it was.
Yeah. A long time ago. If you're asking me where I think they'll go, I think there'll be a bit of money on the table for Leigh Wood. So I think he'll come back for one more. But I think anyone that can crack a little bit. Leigh Wood's one of these guys that is close. He's dangerous when he's throwing short range punches. But he's also very susceptible as well. He's very available. Do you notice his chin comes up a lot, Matty? His hands go down. And he's
That's
very
why
easy
I like
to
the
hit.
Ball fight. But believe it or not, that there's a question because like Ball might be young, but he's fought in a way where he's absorbed a lot of shots, and sometimes after a fight when a guy's been knocked out, that chin's been cracked. It's never the same again. And I think some of the exchanges between Wood and Ball could be interesting and could end up with either guy on the canvas. I know, Leigh's 37, but I still think it's very competitive.
It is, and I think that's the reason why it probably won't be made, because bearing in mind it's Frank and Eddie, but if you could cross that line, I think if you're in the Nick Ball business and he's someone that sells a city like Liverpool, I think you've got to try and keep Nick Ball away from punches, particularly for the next 12 months, particularly on that comeback trail. So I'm not quite sure they'll put Nick Ball in with a puncher, and I think they'll just miss each other.
Yeah, it's a good question on who he could end up fighting. I'm trying to think as far as God, who was coming up at featherweight that lost recently? Was it Liam Davies that was coming up at featherweight and lost recently?
No, Liam Davis is super bantam, isn't he?
I thought maybe he jumped up in his last fight and he
Might
might
have
have
done.
lost.
Might have
Now you
done.
got me thinking.
Might
I'm
have
trying
done.
to remember that.
Might have done.
But that's a name out there because I mean, again, maybe he doesn't want him to go up a weight class. I mean, he's a freaking dwarf as it is.
Ball Doheny 2. That's it.
Oh, fuck off.
If he wants to fight somebody easy, fight Warrington. And you got to worry about getting knocked out in that one.
Yeah, I don't think Warrington's going to fight again. I think he is committed to retiring. And hopefully so. I mean, as much as I have against a guy in his style, like I don't want to see him like seriously harmed in the ring. Like that's not right. But yeah, the undercard fight though. Speaking of 37-year-olds, Bilal Fawaz pulled it out of the fire and just chugged along the last half of the fight to eke out a victory over Ishmael Davis. Very interesting fight. Definitely a fight of two halves where it just kind of seemed like Davis put in a little too much work to win his rounds and didn't have enough to keep Fawaz at bay. So I don't know. James, the 37-year-old marches on. It's a very cool story in a lot of ways with this guy.
Yeah, and I had the fight exactly that, a fight of two halves. I had it a draw, so I didn't really have a problem with the result. I feel like as soon as Fawaz kind of dropped his guard a little bit and started bouncing around, loosened up, he really became a different fighter. Ishmael Davis, he's not the most mobile, but when I've seen him in the past, he's had quite good activity, looks strong enough. But after the halfway point, when Fawaz kind of switched up his style a little bit, Davis just all of a sudden, he just looked at sea. He just didn't know what was going on. And I thought he was in real danger of getting stopped late on. I heard they were saying about Fawaz that he'd been trafficked to the UK as a youngster. And I feel like...
And he's like wants citizenship. He's on some sort of a temporary or some shit. I don't...
Yeah, it's like from a political standpoint right now, that's quite an emblematic thing to have happened for somebody who's here... not on a work visa or whatever, but enter the country illegally, albeit through no fault of their own. And then they become the British champion. I just feel like there's got a lot of story threads to it. And I would push that if I was them. I would push that to the forefront of his promotion, because I feel like that's just a conversation starter, to be honest. But they said he was 37. They kept pushing the fact that he was a good amateur. Like, I don't follow the UK amateur scene really, so I couldn't tell you. But I felt that he was unorthodox, clearly a bit of an oddball. But he did well to scrape through with the win, so fair play. Hopefully they're able to kind of mine his promotional story a little bit more before his reign comes to an end, because 37 is getting up there, and he was fairly easy to hit even at the best of times in that fight last night. So all the best to him.
Yeah, it was a little bit easy to hit, but go ahead, Justin.
No, I was just thinking, I can't believe James hasn't followed the Fawaz amateur career and kept up with it. All I say is he was a cocky little asshole last night too, though. I mean, it was like a poor man's Hamed, but that's it.
Yeah, he was weird, man. He was pulling faces. He was doing the Roy Jones Jr. chicken pose.
Every time he landed a punch, he would kiss his glove.
It
was different. It was different.
Yeah, he was giving off shady vibes, man. I didn't like the way he was looking to his corner, man. I just got like, spicy neurodiversity vibes off him. But we'll see.
Oh shit, Des, I'll tell you what. The fight that comes to mind. He's coming off a loss, Division South, but I think styles make fights in what's a division. I kind of would like to see Echo Esseman against Fawaz. I think that's a legit domestic fight that would sell a few tickets and would probably produce as far as entertainment goes.
Yeah, it's a good fight. Two genuine hard men. Fawaz is a hard man. I mean, look, I really like the Chief support last night. I like both kids. I like their stories. I like the fact they've done it the old-fashioned way. They come up from the small halls the non-televised shows, and anyone in this chat, most people in boxing would have a lot of regard and respect for the way them two kids in that chief support have come through and ended up fighting, retaining, holding British and Commonwealth titles. That's how boxing should be done in its most organic sense. You know, no favors have been done for these two, and they've had to take hard fights. They've had to go on the road. They've had to spend a lot of time in other people's gyms as sparring partners, learning on the job. And we say that, you know, you hear that phrase quite a bit in boxing. They're learning on the job. Well, these two guys really are that. They embody that. So if you look at Ishmael Davis, for example, this is someone that sort of, you know, boxing is one of them sports where you don't have to have a very high ceiling of talent if you're prepared to exchange that for toughness and hard work. We see that all the time. If you get someone that's talented and works hard, then you've got a very good chance of having a good fighter. But in the likes of Ishmael and Bilal, what you've got is two guys that have worked incredibly hard, got themselves in really good shape, and have worked on just some fundamental things that they want to exert into a fight. So, for example, Ishmael is one of them guys that he's quite happy to sit on the back foot and use a single motor skill. So if you want to, like Troy Williamson did, if you want to come in straight lines, Ishmael can lean back, counter punch up, pop, pop, and then step off and go again. And I thought the way to beat Ishmael was to do what Buranchek did, which was force Ishmael to use a multitude of motor skills at the same time. So if I was fighting Ishmael, or one of my kids was, I'd say, you've got to press him and throw. So he's got to use his feet and his head and potentially throw at the same time. Now we're using a multitude of motor skills. And I thought that's what Bilal was going to do from the first bell. Because Bilal is one of these guys he's an old-fashioned boxing hard man. And British boxing has a habit of throwing these guys up, whether it's Dennis Andrews or Chris Eubank Sr. or an O'Hara Davis. They're really rough and rugged. They might not be concussive punchers, but they're thudders and they're ball strong and they're not going away. They're very stubborn. And I think Bilal's all those things. But for the first, 2 or 3 rounds, I think Ishmael conned Bilal out of it. And I think Bilal was throwing single shots. He slipped into sparring partner mode. And up to round 5, I thought he'd let this one go. But then they must have put a rocket up him in his corner. I think his training, Xavier Miller, must have said to him, you know, you're going to have to force this fight. You're going to have to press him and throw and force him to throw back. And when he does that, you're going to find a lot of openings. And also, Ishmael is one of these quite muscular type of guys. And if we can get him into rounds 8, 9, and 10, where he's having to work hard, there's a very good chance he'll gas out a bit. And all of that happened in the second half of the fight. And I think it was James that said it was a fight of 2 halves. It really was. Wasn't a lot in it last night. I think James had it as a draw. I had Bilal just nicking it, and it was a split on the cards. But the big change came in the second half of the fight when Bilal forced Ishmael to use a multitude of motor skills, which was he had to use his hands and his feet, and he had to throw at the same time. And if you can get Ishmael to do that, I think he gets a little bit confused. I think he's not very comfortable doing that. So if you go back to the Troy Williamson fight, where he was comfortable using just one set of motor skills, I think that's when you get the very best version of Ishmael. So you have to take him out of a comfort zone. And the second half of last night, Bilal did that. So it was look, both kids have got really good stories. Both kids have worked really hard to get where they are. And what's really nice about that chief support, that's what British boxing's always been built on. 2 guys that have worked incredibly hard to get there. And I don't think the door's closed on anyone. I think Bilal will go on. There's a pathway being created for him. And I think there'll be doors open for Ishmael, who takes a lot of hard fights and at short notice as well. He's fought some really good kids on this short journey he's had. So credit to both guys. And also credit to Steve Goodwin, who's got one in Bilal. And they're keeping him involved. And he's a big part of that team. Look, I don't know how far this story goes. But on the week Eddie's had, I can imagine that in some sense, being around a Bilal Fawaz last night and Ishmael Davis last night might have brought him down to earth a little bit and thought, "Do you know what? This is the real nicer side of boxing," and it truly is.
Yeah, it's all just a matter of trying to make it that all profitable and stuff, and that's their problem is they can't do it. They have to attach everything to big events, it seems. But alas, what are we going to do about that? Our
Sorry,
friend,
Matty, if I could
yeah,
just say, if you said to someone like Bilal, look, we can't keep paying you big money, but what we can do is guarantee you 5 fights in the next 12 months, and I can guarantee you 25 grand or 35 grand every fight. We can find that money for you with TV because you're a British champion, a Commonwealth champion, and you know what? You might lose some, you might win some, but I can guarantee you 5 fights over the next 12 months, and I can guarantee you're going to earn between 150 and 200 grand in the next
yeah,
12
you
months.
turn him into a 6-figure earner. Yeah,
Yeah,
he'll be
most
happy.
fighters, bang on, mate. Most fighters would bite your hand off, especially where Bilal is at the moment, because he's
Yeah,
a
he's
domestic fighter.
37 years old. He probably
Yeah,
knows he's going to turn up short of world
yeah,
champion level. What can I get out of the next 18 months I have
correct.
in my career, which is
Yeah,
probably all I have?
just give the guy some guarantees. Say, look, you might win some, you might win plenty, you might lose some, but we're going to give you a 5 fight plan, and I'm factoring in if you win them or if you lose some. I've got a contingency, but I'm going to keep you active for the next 12 months, and I'm going to guarantee you 6 figures. And I think that's how you probably bring boxing back a little bit, where we can have guys like this out on shows a little bit with a bit more regularity, and we can get fights like that on our screens. Because I say, if you're guaranteeing these guys, 6 figures or 150, 200 grand for a fight, then they might be sitting at home for 8 or 9 months. I'd rather you give them that over 12 months, but with guarantees. So if you find a pathway for these guys like Ishmael and Bilal, we can see them boxing more regular.
Here's a crazy one to throw out, and I can't remember because I think that was British and Commonwealth, and I can't remember where that puts you in the rankings. But is there any sort of a bizarre outside chance that Fawaz finds his way into into Josh Kelly's voluntary defense?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I think
that's
they're
for
on
the best.
complete different
That's for the
trajectories.
best.
Yeah, yeah. Josh Kelly's looking at Xander Zayas. He's looking at them guys
I
there,
told you, you guys
he
did.
will.
You didn't believe me that they
You
go
did say
right to
it,
the
yeah,
unification.
yeah, they do. And
I
Adam
think
Smith's come
they're
out and
like, we
said that's
got
what he
one
wants.
through with Murtazaliev. That ain't happening again. Let's make some money.
Yeah, I think that's where they go with Josh. But I think with Bilal, if I was his manager, and Steve Goodwin's a very knowledgeable guy, he's been around boxing a long time, and he knows that there's more fights to be won at domestic level, and the more fights you win, the more paydays you've got. I think Steve will keep him at domestic level for the next 3 or 4. And if you're going to send him to Italy, I mean, I'm speaking in old money now, but if you're going to send him to Italy or France for a European title or whatever he might qualify for, because he's after a British citizenship, then perhaps do that at the end of the term. Or perhaps frame him in a fight that perhaps he can't win, but he'll get well paid for. But there's money to be made out of Bilal. And when I say money to be made, there's money for Bilal to make. But I think you shouldn't frame him in too soon. I think we should keep him at domestic level for the next 12 months and let's enjoy this ride at domestic level.
Well, and him, like, again, like, you put him against Echo Esseman, that's something you could probably sell between 3,000 and 5,000 tickets for, and there you go. Everybody's making money. It's just the right opponent moving forward. But speaking of right opponents, I guess I'll go look up his fucking name. But Dave Allen got himself a first round stoppage victory yesterday as well. And I feel bad just like dismissing this guy he fought, but you're looking at him like Dave Allen, like he was so fat. He was so fat, man. And his opponent was no great shakes either. And I kind of thought that he hit him behind the head, but possibly not. His opponent was Kareem Berjem, who was a 12-10-0 prior to that stoppage defeat. And they're getting ready to get behind Dave Allen again and see what he might be able to do. It's that whole thing with guys named Dave in the UK who can punch a bit. They just like demand. They keep getting more and more chances. So Dave moves on. But it was, I don't know. James's fight was so fucking stupid, man. It is so fucking stupid.
I felt like the comms team were like attack dogs, pushing the narrative of if Dave Allen can focus and concentrate on the job, he can definitely become a British champion. They said it like 5 or 6 times, but I felt like we didn't really learn anything new about Dave Allen. He swung big, he missed plenty, he landed fairly heavily. The opponent was no great shakes, but yeah, he might be able to, with the right matchmaking and, you know, whatever else has to align in the universe for him to, you know, put a sustained run of success together. I like Dave Allen, and I think his whole popularity is dependent on his personality rather than his ability. So he doesn't have to look $1 million every time he fights. People just like to see him, and that's fine as well. He doesn't have to be an elite boxer. But I thought it was really interesting at the end of the fight when he was speaking to the interviewer, and Dave Allen echoed the sentiments of pretty much everyone in the boxing world when he said, "I've got no commitment issues with this man right here." And he gestured to Eddie Hearn, because obviously the Conor Benn story he was at the forefront of the broadcast, really, which I found quite surprising. But yeah, Dave Allen.
Believe me, we'll get to that. Believe you me.
yeah. So I thought that was interesting the way they were allowing that to be platformed, and I don't know where that directive came from. But as far as Dave Allen's career is concerned, we're essentially in the same place as before the fight started, I think.
Yeah, don't you just feel like they're just going to end up giving us Allen versus Fisher 3? Like, doesn't that just feel like totally logical by like early next year?
I want that fight, because if Fisher just knocks over 5 or 6 more, they can start to push that story of he's seasoned, he's come through an 8-rounder, a 10-rounder, blah blah blah, and then they could just push that fight, and maybe that's for the British title. You know, that's like some Machiavellian making right there, because it's a win-win for Eddie, the loyal promoter.
Yeah, and they can sell the shit out of tickets for that, and it's so fucking stupid that they can. But what are you gonna do? So you know, we wish the best for Dave Allen. What's next for Dave Allen?
Do we actually wish the best for Dave Allen?
I do wish the best.
I could care less. I could care less what happens to Dave. He looked homeless. He looked, and how
like Big Dave?
How bad were the 12 guys? How bad were the 12 guys that Bidgerang or whatever the hell his name was beat?
I don't know. Let's take a look. How bad?
God almighty, that was. Who cares? I mean, I will say this:
as a man, 4 times.
I own a Dave Allen sweatshirt, so I can't talk too much shit. I actually own one. I've got a Hellenius and Dave Allen sweatshirt. I'm a man who, I like random shit though, so it's sad all around anyway.
So he was stopped in the 4th round in Helsinki against a guy named Christian Lewandowski in 2015. Lewandowski, I imagine his career is over at this point in time. He ended up 12-5. Let's see here. Who else has he been stopped? Or just a name on there. He was stopped by Samuel Kaji in the next year. Samuel Kaji was 5-0 at the time. He is 18-1. It seems like he's probably done with his career. He lost to Vasil Dukar in a 10th round knockout.
So only the best beat him, then you're saying?
Yeah, this guy actually.
Only the best beat.
Maybe it's a British thing, but I feel like for him to be like a star or for people to like him, he doesn't need to be the best. You know, I think it's like the Frank Bruno thing. I don't think anyone was under any illusions in the mid-90s about whether Frank Bruno was the best heavyweight in the world, but he just needed to win his biggest fight. I think as long as Dave Allen does that, I feel like he'll get out of the game with reputation intact.
Yeah, this dude had beat nobody, and like, yeah, it's a shame. So I don't know, you know, Dave. If people like Dave, what are you gonna do? Fair play to Mr. Dave Allen. Let's see here. There's also other stuff on that card. I didn't watch it. Maybe you guys did. Let's see here. What did we have? Sandy Ryan was lucky to get away with one, it sounds like, against Carlo Ramos Zamora. Tia May Aton won over Catherine Tacone Ramos. Leo Atang stopped Dan Garber. Maybe you guys saw that one. Molly McCann was in action. So I don't know. Anything on that undercard you guys feel like talking about? I didn't watch it. I was eating carnitas.
Nothing else from me.
Atang should go to cruiserweight. He weighs about 205 pounds. That is a long-term project. I'll put it that way.
Huh.
A long-term project.
He weighed 235 for that one.
He just looked so small, in my opinion. Maybe it's just me. He just looked really small.
Huh.
Like he had like really little arms. He just looked small. I just think it's a long ways away with him.
Yeah, well, everyone can have a goal. The Bridgerweight division is looking for a star. So, Des, before we move on, I want you to, if you have anything that you wanted to say about Ryan Garcia and Barrios and the rest of that card, feel free to have at it, and then I will go forward with whatever the hell else we're doing.
With regard to Dave Allen thing, I don't ever want to talk about him again, really, as a boxer. I think he's awful. I think he's a disgrace to boxing. I really do. No, and I'd love to know what the training team and the promoters think of this. How a kid like him can turn up looking absolutely like a scarecrow, like 19 stone. I think he's awful. And serving up opponents like that, it's an embarrassment to boxing. And I had someone ring me up today who watched the card last night, and he said to me, "What's going on with this Dave Allen thing?" And I tried to explain to him that it's half a gimmick. He's back in on the scene because he beat Johnny Fisher, but we all know how good Johnny Fisher is. And he didn't beat Johnny Fisher using the sweet science. He just walked him down. Johnny Fisher didn't know what to do. And I said to him, like, boxing's that sport where the other guy's been brought in not to win, to literally go over. And Dave Allen coming in an absolute state, looking the way he looks, is the A side. Like, do you know what a bad look that is for boxing? And I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of him. If anyone's telling me Dave Allen is talented, they don't know what talent looks like. If he's in a gym where he's the most talented kid, that gym should be shut down. Like, he is not up to it. And anyone that's got reasonable feet with a reasonable jab will take Dave Allen in around 4 or 5 and just switch him off and box his head off. He's terrible. And maybe it's the fighter in me. Maybe it's because I know kids that were so talented that never got out of blocks. Maybe it's because I've seen so many heartbreaking stories in boxing for kids that gave so much and got so little back. But I don't find it funny, Dave Allen prattling about like this. I don't enjoy it. I'd love to know what Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis are playing at, how he can turn up looking like that. I wonder what sort of camp they're having. I wonder how much involvement they have. It's a really bad look. And if you're DAZN trying to sell a product, if you're DAZN putting fighters on prime time viewing, how can you justify that? It's a really bad look for British boxing. It's laughable. With regard to Ryan Garcia, if we're to assume Ryan's clean, if we're to assume this is a clean version of Ryan Garcia, last night was a brilliant performance. He was very proactive. He had a really snappy jab. He was aggressive, brought his backhand into play, good feet, didn't crowd his work, kept a lovely bit of distance, fought at a really good pace. Yeah, it's probably the best Ryan Garcia I've seen since Devin Haney. But we know that one has got an asterisk attached.
I think it looked better than he did against Devin Haney because he just dropped Haney multiple times. And, there was all sorts of stuff he did in that fight where he looked terrible. Like, his footwork was pure garbage. I'm not saying it was great last night, good but point. He didn't bounce around like fucking Bambi.
No, good point. He looked really composed and he was boxing to really good orders. I hear what you're saying. That's a really good observation, Matty. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, he looked better. He looked like a complete boxer last night.
His old man had good instructions for him in the corner too. I will give absolute credit to Henry Garcia for. It seems like he has a good boxing brain, and he kind of keeps his son between the lines. Good for him.
Yeah. So we agreed that if that's a clean Ryan Garcia. And I don't know who said it. I think it might be one of our friends in the chat, or it might be one of the multiple groups we were on. But I think that version of Ryan Garcia is a really good addition to 47. I really do. I think, and 47's dropped a little bit. And I think Ryan Garcia would be a really good addition, that version of Ryan Garcia. So, yeah, good win. I enjoyed that last night.
And did you catch anything else on the card?
No, I don't think I did.
All right. Right on. Well, I guess the big boxing news of the week then is that Conor Benn is going to Zuffa Boxing as they are trying to accumulate all of the top talent that they can find, leaving Eddie in the dust, treating him like a $5 hooker from the corner of some shitville street in the middle of the ghetto. And Eddie is sad. I wish I could take some joy in that, but like, I don't know. I think ultimately the way I look at this is a black eye on Zuffa Boxing, because if this is what they consider to be the top level talent that they are trying to gather for their operation, there's a lack of an eye for what is actually the best out there. I could name any number of fighters who had taken a fight against Conor Benn. But probably fucking Mario Barrios still, God love him. But I think this is a pretty terrible signing. Apparently, Andy Ruiz is going over to Zuffa as well. It seems like a lot, other than Jai Apataya. You got some people who are contenders, maybe looking for a chance, but the bulk are has-beens or never were's at this point. And I don't know what to think about the operation, but ultimately, if Conor Benn is the kind of person they're looking to build the Zuffa brand on, they think that could be their welterweight champion. I have no grand illusions about how good Zuffa Boxing is really going to be at the end of the day there, Justin.
Well, I think it's interesting for a few things. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, he's not loyal. And I admit, Eddie Hearn went above and beyond to turn him into something. He did. And without Eddie Hearn, Conor Benn would be nothing, period. I don't care. He can say what he wants to say. We all know that's the truth.
Yeah, he was able to market him into an 8-figure fucking payday. It's ridiculous.
He stood by him. He lied for him. He fought court with him. He did it all. But loyalty doesn't exist in sports. So I don't even care. I don't care he left. But I think if you look at different points here, Turkey played his hand. I think he showed who his top dog is now, that he's going to start taking. He took a fighter from his other guys that because Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, they work for Turkey. We all know that. He's their boss, period. Yes. And now he's taking guys from them and putting it on Zuffa. So we've said this before. He is going to eventually be done with Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. That's coming. He's going to be done.
Feels like they're trying to move everything over, and I like
they're going to slide it to that, and then he's going to push them out, and then Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, and who cares? They made their money. They're going to be back to doing their own thing because he's going to move. I feel it's weird though that Opataya, I think this is going to be in a bad decision for him. He is so far and above the rest of the guys they have. Like you said, it's not even funny. This is a joke that you've got a pound for pound guy with everybody else they're bringing in. Andy Ruiz nobody cares about Andy Ruiz. He won the lottery when he beat Joshua, and he hasn't done fuck all since. Andy Ruiz doesn't care about the sport, and that's your big heavyweight signing, him and F.A. Ajagba. Zuffa is so vanilla. I don't know what's going to happen, but Conor Benn, who cares? I mean, yeah, it does suck in a way. I guess I said I didn't, but it does suck in a little bit for Eddie Hearn that, I mean, man, you went to war for this man. And he just said, you know what? Fuck off. I'm going to go for Zuffa Boxing. It is so stupid. Now we're going to see Ben on Paramount Plus fighting absolute. You know he's not going to fight anybody good. He's going to, because there's nobody good for him to fight on that promotion. It's just going to be trash. I think this sums up Conor Benn. Is anybody surprised that he would do something like this? That he would move on and take something else? I think Eddie Hearn, if Eddie Hearn stays around, which he keeps saying he's going to get out, but he's not going to get out. He's been saying he's going to get out for the last 9 years. He's going to stay in it because it's just money and ego. What else is he going to do if he doesn't do this to get his face out there? I think in a few years, I think Eddie Hearn's not going to lose anything by Conor Benn leaving. It's not a big. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. But Turkey, he played his hand. That's what I get out of this. He showed last night that Dana White is going to be my man. This is where we're going, and that's it.
It's just I just wonder what the hell they offered Ben that would bring him over, because he made so many millions of dollars fighting Eubank those 2 times. Like, and he probably is like overestimating his value in the marketplace right now because of that. So I wonder what they offered him. And James, I feel like this is going to be a repeat, and I can't believe they didn't learn, but I think this is going to be a repeat of how you kind of figured DAZN was just going to be spending dumb money on dumb stuff, like the Jesse Vargas, Tevin Farmer for millions of dollars signings. Like, this is the talent you think you want to build your brand around? Like, I think you're just recreating the Titanic, my friends.
Well, reportedly, he's going for a 1-fight deal worth 8 figures, whatever that means. So yeah, a big bag. But there's a couple of things that are quite interesting about this. The 1-fight aspect of it is pretty interesting. Like, I could see them paying him a lot, but looking to kind of make back on that investment with a multiple fight deal or have some kind of a plan. What does a 1-fight deal do for you if you're Zuffa and you kind of Ben? I don't understand what kind of big moves you're going to be making in 1 fight. But equally interesting, I felt like in the public statement that he issued, or his manager issued, or whoever, that he still wants Eddie to be a part of his setup in some capacity. I don't know what capacity that would be if it's not as the promoter, and I can't really see Eddie doing that if it's not as the promoter, especially after being dumped by email. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, abrupt. I think Mickey Duff said it the best: if you want loyalty, get a dog. So it's not that surprising. But Conor Benn wants the legacy fights. He wants the biggest fights out there, and apparently that means Ryan Garcia. And I don't know what the promotional situation is as it applies to Garcia and Zuffa boxing. It's it's an odd one. It's not surprising. I think they're not friends, and I think you're under a bit of illusion if you think your business partner is your
Turkey
friend.
with his hands in both of these pies, like it blurs the line so much, and it just feels like he has so much leverage. He can basically tell whoever the fuck, I'm moving these pieces where I want them right now.
Well, here's the money, doesn't it? So it doesn't really matter how you cut it. The person with the most economic power is the person with the most power. And like my partner asked me about, like, I was talking about this with her, and I was saying that the promotional landscape at the moment is like really nebulous. Like, it used to be one promoter and one network over here, another promoter and another network over here. And now they're all kind of on the same shows and working together in loads of different combinations. But the person who's really in charge is this guy over here, and he's not really anything to do with boxing. It's strange at the moment. I'm not sure what kind of shift this Conor Benn move indicates, to be honest. I don't think he'll be fighting Ryan Garcia next. I don't think he'll be in a mega fight next. I'm just not sure what 1 fight with Zuffa is going to accomplish, to be fair.
There has to be a big name in mind if they're putting that much money out there. Like, you can't have him fighting a Jordanis Ugas or something like that. Like, you almost wonder, like, do you think, because let me throw this out there, Des, here's my thought. This is just what went through my head. Do you think that they are setting something up because Manny Pacquiao is now moving to an exhibition against Provodnikov instead of a real bout? Do you think that maybe Manny Pacquiao and Conor Benn is Zuffa's plan for this year?
I certainly think that Ben will be moved down the line of Manny Pacquiao, Amir Khan, Kell Brook. I think that's where you'll probably take Conor Benn. You're not going to put him in with proper boxers, elite guys of a division. So people have asked, why have they gone for this move? Why have they done it? Do you remember what Vince McMahon used to do when another territory had a really big star? He'd bring them over, not to use them, but almost to dismantle them. But he just wanted to pull the rug from underneath the other territory. He wanted to take their legs away. And if you look at Matchroom, we don't know what AJ's going to do. And AJ's got a lifetime deal with Matchroom. And AJ's at a point of his career where I'm not quite sure what he's going to generate, if he's going to fight again. We know where AJ is. But I think outside of Anthony Joshua, Matchroom's biggest UK asset is probably Conor Benn. So what Dana White has done, or Zuffa Boxing has done, is they've just taken away Matchroom's biggest asset. It's not really about what we're going to do with him. It's more a case of now you haven't got him. And I think now they look to what we can do with Conor Benn. But primarily, I think the play was to dismantle your opposition. I think they've done that. I think this has had a big impact on Matchroom. We've seen a lot of emotion from Eddie in the last couple of days, and it's had a big impact in British boxing. Everyone's talking about it. But this is what promoters do. This is what fighters do. This is what fighters, trainers, and promoters, they do this type of stuff. If I'm honest, I'm amazed it's had the traction it's had, because I can think of a lot more impacting splits than perhaps this one of the last 20, 30 years. You know, when we discovered what was happening with Barry and Carl Frampton, that was a lot more skullduggerous and had a lot more of an impact on everyone involved than what this has had. I remember Kell Brook coming out in the amateurs. I remember his last fight, signing with Frank having really good relationships with Brendan Ingle, and Brendan saying Frank's always been good to us, and Frank taking Kell right the way through the domestic scene. And Kell got nicked for an affray. And being a license holder, being a pro boxer, being nicked for violence, there's a very good chance Kell would have perhaps got an 18-month sentence and lost his license. Frank went to court, spoke on his behalf. Frank sat down with a judge and said, we can create a pathway for this young man, or we can tear it down. But if you give him another chance, I will ensure that we create a pathway for him. Frank appearing in court and speaking on behalf of Kell Brook, there's a very big shout that stopped Kell going to prison. But what did Kell do after that? He left Frank for Eddie. I mean, like, this is what boxers do. It's the scorpion and the frog. It's nothing surprising. It's nothing new. But I just think it's had quite an impact, because promoters seem to be front and center of everything in boxing now. But this has always happened. And look, it's this very simple equation. Someone's got on the phone to Conor Benn and said, look, this is the number. Do you fancy it? And Conor's gone, yeah, I do. And he's just done it. And it's no different to what his dad did. His dad was trained by Brian Lynch in the early days, and he left Brian Lynch. His dad was managed by Ambrose Mendy. They went around the world together, took on the boxing board of control. He left Ambrose Mendy. This is what fighters do. It really is the scorpion and the frog. No surprises for me. But I go back to what I said a moment ago. From Zuffa's perspective, I don't think this was about let's get the hottest commodity of boxing. It's more a case of let's try and take the legs away from Matchroom and let's poach their hottest commodity. And outside of Joshua, I think Conor Benn is their biggest star, and they've successfully removed him. So it'd be interesting to see where Matchroom go now. And in regards to Conor Benn, I think he'll go down there. Fighters coming out of retirement, like I said, Manny Pacquiao, Amir Khan, Kell Brook, them sort of guys. But they're certainly not going to put him in with a Boots, are they? They're certainly not going to put him in with a Ryan Garcia. He won't last 5 rounds. He's not got them type of motor skills. He's never won a Southern Area title, and I think he'd struggle to win a British title. He'd never been nowhere near that type of competition. So it's certainly interesting. It's certainly had an impact, but I don't think it's let's sign Conor Benn because he's the hottest ticket in town. I think it was more a strategic move to try and dismantle Matchroom.
And people have gotten so, I think Des is exactly right, but the problem is people have gotten to the point where they're not a fan of boxing. They're like a fan of a promoter.
This is so true.
Yeah, and people are just, they love Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, and it's like, well, I don't give a shit. Because you remember during the wars before they joined up with Turkey or whatever, it's like, you can't watch this because who gives a shit? It's just, I love boxing. I don't give a damn I don't care if he fights for Zuffa. I don't care who they fight for, but people have gotten so loyal, which is stupid to do that because they don't give a shit about you. They've gotten so loyal to a certain promoter. That's why they're taking it personal. And this is an insult to them as well. And that's just stupid as hell.
Yeah, well, it's Yeah, I kind of like the idea that this is basically at the end of the day, if you think about it from this setup, it's basically a snake eating itself, and it's the amount of money being thrown around and stuff. Like they're gonna crash the zone, they're gonna crash the Zuffa effort on Paramount Plus, and it's just gonna take a little bit of time. Like I don't think they understand how necessary that there needs to be a real balance of competition and
Yeah.
cooperation for boxing to function at its very best. And you don't get it through monopolization in an
Well,
era of high purses.
hasn't Zuffa watched over the last 20 years? PBC failed, bombed. They tried to do this, couldn't do it. The Zone tried to do it, they can't do it. Now they're trying to do the exact same thing that has been done over the last 10, 15 years. Guess what? You can't make this a monopoly. It doesn't work like that. And we keep talking about Connor's being next opponents. Zuffa is not going to let him go out of wearing the little white and black trunks and fighting on another promotion. It's going to be in the Zuffa sphere. It's going to be a guy that signs with them. That's who he's going to fight. So that's going to really limit the amount of guys he can fight, because I guarantee you it's going to be another guy signed for Zuffa. They're not going to start bringing in other promoters, guys to fight him. I don't see that happening at all, because that's not what Dana White does. I don't see that. I don't see them bringing anybody else outside of their little circle for him to fight, unless they sign for them.
Well, I'll tell you what also could happen here is James, you look at how much money they're giving Conor Benn for one fight, and then you hear the complaints from other fighters about the purses they're getting paid on these Zuffa cards, and I think they're going to basically have like a talent revolt, or basically a talent is going to be kind of phoning it in, thinking they're getting the raw end of it, so this fucking chump can make huge money.
Well, anyone who follows the UFC knows that their hierarchical pay structure is pretty draconian. So I don't understand why. And like, I can understand an amateur or someone who wants to turn pro and they need a support network and a manager and blah blah blah. And signing with Zuffa will give you access to those kind of resources. I completely understand that. I can understand why Conor Benn would go there if he's getting an 8-figure deal. I don't understand what's in it for everyone else, because you're going to get criminally underpaid, and the UFC have a reputation for this. And the other areas where a fighter might make extra money through sponsorships, etc., Zuffa crush all that. You're not able to make that extracurricular money. So maybe they're looking to roll out a different kind of business plan when it comes to boxing, but when it's applied to MMA, like, they lock their fighters down big time. So it would be interesting to see how it plays out. Will Conor Benn be able to keep his identity? It'd be quite like, Faustian if he has to stand in line like a good soldier.
I think we'll have a few changes behind the scenes though with Conor Benn. I can't imagine. I think Tony Sims has been middled up in this, because Tony Sims is almost like he trains out of the Matchroom gym, and Matchroom send a lot of their fighters to him. I can't imagine Tony can have a foot in both camps on this one. I think he'll have to make a choice.
And where do you see him going, Des?
It all depends on the money being offered, James.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Carl split from Mick Hennessy? Mick Hennessy and Rob McCracken were best mates, but Rob went with Carl. It's an interesting one. Let's wait and see. But if Tony goes with Conor, you might see Tony having to relocate, because it's a real sticky wicket, this one, because it's had a big impact on Matchroom. He truly was. I mean, I think it was Matty said Matchroom have built a pay-per-view starring Conor Benn. Yes and no. They absolutely have. They've picked up the baton from what their fathers did. And maybe we have to remember that what their dads did, along with Steve Collins and Michael Watson, and perhaps what the fact that we had 4 TV channels and we had, a few newspapers, and everybody was sort of honed in on the boxing scene back in the late 80s, early to mid 90s, before Sky come in and it all went a little bit crazy. Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank and Frank Bruno, them guys they're built into the fabric of British culture. Not to the extent, but much like Michael Jordan and Babe Ruth, they're our modern day post-war sporting heroes. So the two sons built off the back of that, and Matchroom was in the right place to orchestrate it and thought, can we sell it again? We've done it before, can we do it a second time? And it worked. It really worked. And we watched them fights. They weren't much to talk about. Two kids of very limited motor skills with a very low ceiling, boxing at a very, very in front of huge crowds and getting paid huge amounts of money because they was right time, right place. And good luck to them. But it will be interesting to see now with the impact this has had and how important he was to their company, whether Tony Sims, the trainer, will go with him or he'll say, no, that's me lot. I won't be going with you. I'll be staying with Matchroom. Tony's been with Matchroom for the last 20 years. It would be an interesting decision.
That's an interesting component to this whole
no one's mentioned it yet.
Bunch of shenanigans, yeah.
No.
And God, not knowing how long Rob's been sitting here since I've been sitting here cleaning out my my marijuana grinder. Rob, you actually came. You watched one fight. What'd you think about the one fight?
I actually watched two fights, Matty.
Holy shit.
I saw Wood and Warrington as well, which I wish I hadn't seen that one. Yeah, I saw Wood and Warrington. I thought it was a bit of a pointless rematch. I know Warrington was ahead on the cards in the first fight, but Clare's best days behind him. It's a money spinner. If that had been close last night and Warrington had nicked the decision, no doubt we would have got the trilogy as well and had to fucking sit through the third time. I thought Wood's knockout was a definitive win the first time. No Warrington was in the fight. I've been calling for that guy to retire for like 2 years. I think he's, proved me wrong many a time throughout his career. Had a great career, become a legit world champion. He couldn't get the head going from last night, couldn't he? He couldn't get close to Leigh Wood. Leigh Wood had the nice loose style, low hands. That must have come from hours and hours of unrivaled work from Boxercise Ben and Lee Wiley. They've done the dossier size Ben Davison. But no, they fought a smart fight. Wood was able to get him with the jab. He was able to jab him mid-distance, stop him coming in, stop Warrington. I think if you stop Warrington's feet getting started, he's like Speedy Gonzalez, isn't it? Once his feet get warmed up and he's able, in his younger days when he was able to get across the ring quicker and put you under pressure, smother you, throw the head on you, elbow you, hit you in the balls, all the usual Josh Warrington tactics that we loved and missed weren't on display last night. Thought Wood hurt him a couple of times, stiffened him up, but he didn't get that big shot off either. It was a poor spectacle. I thought it was boring me to tears after 4 rounds. Honestly, I didn't see it catching fire at all. And then so I didn't see any of the undercard on that, and then I didn't see any of the undercard on King Rye's return either.
So you've watched two lopsided decisions this weekend.
Yeah.
Lucky Rob.
Yeah, exactly. The Ryan Garcia, you could have. He's going to get a Netflix deal out of this, and if you wanted to broadcast a Netflix feature on his back, you could probably do it on a projector. I don't know what that says, but he looked very, very, very big last night in the ring, as did Barrios, actually. I know Barrios is 6'1" or something, is he, for a welterweight?
5'11",
I thought
6. He's right there around 6.
I thought Ryan Garcia looked sharp. I always thought Barrios was a limited guy. This was a guy that was, Barrios has been the low-hanging fruit of the 147. Well, the purported low-hanging fruit of the 147 division for a couple of years now. Like Tank went up and won a version of a title against him. Conor Benn couldn't keep his name out of his mouth. Everybody's wanted Mario Barrios. He's been a decent champion. He's provided good value in the fights he's in. I don't think he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer or anything. A limited guy with good heart and decent attributes, but Garcia just looked levels above him. He looked like the power was bothering him from the first second. Garcia's technique on the right, I thought that I'd have to see Garcia in with somebody else before I could say he's back or he's showing any of the promise that he showed in his early career.
consistent, man. I don't know what
Yeah.
the hell to think about the guy.
That it seems like when he's dialed in, he's able to do special stuff. But we've only seen like flashes of that. Really, Garcia's currency is his star power, isn't it? Like, and his social media following and his trajectory that way. De La Hoya seems to be convinced that they're under contract. I wouldn't be so sure we don't see Ryan Garcia versus Conor Bain in Zumba boxing or Zuffa boxing or whatever it's going to be down the line. I wouldn't be so sure that doesn't happen when Adam Out the Bread is at play. I think Garcia, a winning Ryan Garcia, will be an attractive proposition for someone like Turkey to make a play for. Who wouldn't want them as their 147 champion? You know, that way in that kind of sport where they're selling the sport, they're trying to redevelop or the foundations of boxing as a commercial proposition. I think Garcia is very to them from that perspective. But on the fight, he did really well. He hit hard. I would have liked to see him get a knockout. He's called for Shakur. I think he would have the balls to fight Shakur Stevenson. But I think it'll be a lopsided decision, something similar to Teofimo Lopez. I don't think he'd have anything for Shakur. Only thing is he has power, but he wasn't able to make the power work against Tank, albeit a weight drain version of himself. He clipped Taney, but he was way over the limit and on steroids. So I really don't know what that fight looked like. I think it's going to be down the line. And if I was Ryan Garcia, I wouldn't be jumping straight into it either. I see as we're just touching on the Conor Bain matchroom thing. Yeah, if you want loyalty, get a dog for yourself. I think I'd say about that. I have to. I can't fucking feel too like. It's hard to know who's the bad guy in that one, isn't it? Like it's when Conor Bain's making Eddie Hearn look like the good guy, you have to start wondering what the fuck is going on. Is Conor Bain really like that much of an unscrupulous little shit? What you would say is
I
that
learned about stuff like this, Rob, from geopolitics, and that's sometimes shit is just between two bad guys. They're just
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, both things could be true. Yeah, I there's no doubt Eddie Hearn laid it all on the line for Conor Bain. No doubt about it. He went to bat for him when he was clearly in the wrong over the allegations of doping. There weren't allegations of doping. He popped and Hearn backed him. Hearn got him on Piers Morgan. Hearn did a world tour of the boxing media outlets proclaiming his innocence, coming up with egg dossiers, lending him hundreds of thousands by all accounts, paying for cars and houses for him in the hope that he was going to get back. Interesting in terms of what they would call embedded confessions. Shout out Peter Hyatt, the late great Peter Hyatt, in statement analysis. I saw a quick clip with Conor Bain where two non-boxing people were interviewing him on a podcast, and they said, "Is it Turkey? Does Turkey just like get the people that he wants to win and says, oh, you're going to win this fight?" And Conor Bain answered the question. It was like, "Yeah, like basically, I was told I was going to win the Eubank fight." I was like, "Oh, okay." I remember looking at that second fight, thinking something was up. That doesn't sound great, but not to jump fully out the window of the conspiracy down the conspiracy road. He, in that same interview, gave Turkey the credit for making the Eubank and Ben fights. And while I'd say that was probably true after the doping controversy, certainly Eddie had it made as they were ready to fucking still have it once he popped hot the first time around. So Eddie, like, he owes his career to Eddie Hearn, right? So there's no doubt about it. Eddie took a chance on him. He was the son of Nigel Benn. He was getting beat up by kickboxers. He developed a new sense of power, but the public were warming to him. Matchroom were doing a brilliant job with him. You know, I don't drive heated seats, leave it in the gym, leave a penny on the table. Everybody was buying into it, and he was becoming like a likable guy. Once he went on the press run talking about he was going to off himself because people wouldn't believe him and ripped up his British board license. Like, is Eddie Hearn surprised that a fella who did all that would snake him for money? And also, has Eddie Hearn got a brass neck talking about loyalty, and he after running off on the missus and leaving her for Sky Nicholson? You know what I mean? Maybe Turkey I'll shake is just fucking Conor Bain, Sky Nicholson. That's what I'd say on that one. So at the end of the day, they'll all make a ton of money, and I won't see any of it, so I don't give a shit. You know that way? But more power to them. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't actually be so sure that these two are not planning on working with each other down the line again either. I think they like a bit of theatre and drama there, so I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie works with Conor Benn again.
You're on mute again, buddy.
Oh, thanks, Justin. Yeah, they're just highly transactional people. It has nothing to do with anything other than their bottom line and what they think they can make out of the next event. So, but yeah, it was an interesting enough weekend, and we have social media to keep us entertained for this week ahead. Oh wait, we have something that's happening tonight. Do you guys know what's going to be happening in only a handful of hours?
The Players' Ball.
No,
Clarissa Shields,
Yeah.
Franchon Cruz.
You're ready to
That's
pop that. You're ready to pop that
exactly
shit
what's
tonight.
happening. Yeah, gonna pop that shit.
They had a little. They had a nice little brawl at the press conference to set
Wasn't
it
that-
to whet the appetite. For
Yeah,
fuck's sake.
did that make it to World Star, Rob? Huh? You get no answer. Maybe you broke it up. But anyways, that's going on tonight. We've got what the hell is going on here? I was looking for something else on the on this undercard that might have been worth a damn, but I don't think it's pretty much a woman's card. There's Atif Olberton against Joseph George. You can't say I'm particularly familiar with either of those guys. Then we got the ladies' fights. We got Che Kenielli against Danielle Perkins. That's going to be light heavyweights there. I don't know what the difference between the light heavyweights and the heavyweight is at this point in time. Doesn't really matter. Samantha Worthington against Edith Soledad Matisse for Worthington's WBA junior welterweight title, and then a bunch of other stuff. I think it could be. Let me just say, I think this fight. God, how would I explain it? Franchon, at her best, fights like a dime store Clarissa Shields. She crowds, she throws shots inside, she makes it rough and ugly, but she's just not that accurate. She's gotten wider, slower in the last few years with her shots, and unless she's super sharp, in which case it could be a very fun style matchup. Actually, I think this is going to be a domination of their rematch of how many years in the making, as Franchon was the first opponent of Clarissa Shields in the pro ranks, and vice versa. I do believe so. I don't know if anyone has anything to say about that. Please speak now or forever hold your peace.
You've not sold that to me at all, Matty. You know.
I wish I could have. I wish I could have.
Let's see the press conference. You should have been sold off the outfits alone.
Well, that's what I thought was going on. The Players' Ball, man. Mr. White folks and the boys. It was fabulous.
They're styling. Yeah, they're styling.
Clarissa gave a nice live talking about what had happened, and she said that Franchon needs to get security in better shape because her fat security guard fell over and knocked her over. That was what caused the injury. She didn't touch her, she said. And there was assorted scallywag behaviour going off in the background, which is becoming a bit of a theme now. We saw Bill Haney catch an ass whooping at a press conference there recently. I don't like to see this kind of stuff going on at weigh-ins, like let the fighters fight, like. But
this
sometimes you're
problem
going to
with
get
social
that.
media is everybody's running their fucking mouth before this shit happens, and some people actually make you cash those checks. You know what I mean?
Wasn't it Shields who had an incident at one of her press conferences before? Somebody got knocked out.
I'm surprised by that. That's
Was
right.
That Shields?
Yeah. That's right. The coach of the other, someone got sneaked on the other side. Wasn't it the coach of another fighter got clipped from someone in her entourage from behind? That's right. He did say some wild shit, that guy. I'm not going to repeat it, but he said some wild shit to get to catch that one.
As has been known to occur. Sometimes you earn your ass whoopings. But yeah. So yeah, if you guys want to watch that, that's going to be, I think, on DAZN tonight. That undercard isn't very compelling though. I'll watch the main event just because I have no life. Let's see here. What else do we got going on this week? We have a fight from, let's see, Canada. I'm sure Justin will find this one. Maybe you don't want to. Bradley Wilcox against Mark Smither. Any of those names ring a bell? No. Sarah Bailey against Mariela Ribera Valverde. It's 10 rounds, so it might be for a fringe title. Yeah, that one doesn't do much for me whatsoever. So let's go check the other one because I thought there was a Pro Box card, and ESPN doesn't always list those. Let's see here. Yeah, they got a Pro Box card on Friday. Edward Vasquez versus Grimardi Machuca. Ruben Aguilar against Louis Lopez. That's going to be going on from Texas. From the names on the card, I imagine there will be ice operations nearby. The sons of fucking bitches. Let's see here. Going to be a card from Belfast. Connor Quinn against Jake Dodd. Also going to be on Friday, but that will be obviously afternoon here. Then on Amazon Prime, they're actually having a free card over there for a rare time. Elijah Pierce against Lorenzo Pera. Not a bad contenderish kind of fight there. But Des, here's one I want to take a stop on. A kid we've been watching ever since his name first popped up in a pick in the Boxing Nutters Prediction League, and he's come up. He's a sharp southpaw puncher, and I think has the British. Maybe I don't think he's got the Commonwealth. I think he's just got I can't remember. I think the British title. But Constantine Ursu, Owen Cooper, that's going to be happening, going on from Derby, also available on DAZN this Saturday. I like that fight. I'm following this Ursu on his way up. Do you have any thoughts on that one, Des?
No, when is that fight, Matty?
Saturday.
What shows it on? What card?
DAZN, they're headlining. It's in Derby.
I don't know much about that one.
Yeah, I don't know. Where is Derby?
Give me a minute. Let me have a look at it.
Where
That's
is
in
Derby
Derbyshire.
about
It's in
the
the
UK?
It's the East
Derby's
Midlands,
right in the middle. It's just underneath underneath Birmingham.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's fine for the. It's a British and Commonwealth welterweight title, isn't it? Both vacant now, so they're giving.
There you go.
It's a hard fight for Owen. Yeah. Yeah,
Ursu's a sharp puncher with that left hand. He's an athletic kid.
But he's not a puncher, though, is he, Matt?
Oh, he is a bit of a puncher. He didn't, not early in his career, but he's been taking guys out. I think that most recent victory his was the first decision victory after a string of
Ryan Amos.
stoppages.
Yeah, Ryan Amos. Yeah. So sometimes what can happen is you find your way into the pros, you get your weight right, you get settled on a style, and then almost like Stevie Roberts did, you find the punch. It was like he's found the punch. But yeah, you fancy him do you, Matty Ursu?
I would say so. Yeah, I think he's a favorite and with good reason.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. I don't know much about him, to be honest. So I'll have a look at him now on your say so.
Yeah, I think he was born in Moldova.
He was, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, interesting enough one. But I'll tell you the card that I am particularly looking forward to. I had wished I was to be there in Arizona. Changed plans, then those plans didn't work. So alas, I will not be there. But Eduardo Nunez, Emanuel Navarrete, that has fight of the year written all over it. If they are in any sort of form, let's go up the undercard though. I'm gonna go over to Yale Box Rec for this one. Let's yeah, because Emiliano Vargas is on the card. I keep my eye on him. He was along with Xander Zayas part of the Bad Bunny halftime show. For people who didn't catch those two boxers, who were they? They were Emiliano Vargas and Xander Zayas. So there you go. He is coming off of a decision victory after a string of knockouts and going in against Augustin Ezequiel Quintana, 22-2-1, 13 stoppages to his credit. One of those losses by stoppage. That was to Juan Javier Carrasco, who was 15-1 at the time. He now sits at 22-2. He lost to Zora Abdullayev in the 12th round of a fight. Yep, there you go. So there you go. That was his. They threw in the towel due to damage on his eyes in that fight. So he's fought some decent guys, I guess. So this is an interesting fight for Vargas, I say, coming up. Looking forward to that. Definitely the most talented of the Vargas children who are plying their trade in their father's footsteps. Let's see here. What do we got on here? Trini Ochoa taking on Oscar Alvarez Guerrero, 21-0 against 14-2. He always won 21-0. Have they fought anyone? 9 knockouts. Yeah, it's been a slow run for him. Yeah, this could be interesting. This other cat is on a run of 5 victories. He has 12 stoppages to his credit. Hasn't really beat anyone of note, though. He lost to Jonathan Cardoso. Oh, wait. He might have beat Nicholas Polanco. Hold on. I might have missed that. Yeah, he beat Nicholas Polanco. Holy shit. Technical decision. Yeah. So he's not that bad. That's not the great Polanco, but that's a decent Polanco. Or the possibly very good Polanco. Let's see here. What do we got here? Arturo Popoca going against Jordan Martinez. Oh, battle between unbeatens like this. 17-0-1 for Popoca. 9 stoppages. He's fought a few guys with at least decent records on there. And his opponent, Mr. Martinez, 16-0 with 15 knockouts, coming in a banger. Let's see here. And yeah, this dude ain't fought nobody. His last 2 opponents, 6-26-1, 8-10-3. So this is a lot of unknowns in this one. 2 kids probably going to be willing to really go at it, though. So, and then here's a little upset pick for you guys. Tamir Smalls going in there against Abel Ramos. Smalls 16-0, 14 knockouts. We all know about Abel Ramos. Last fight out. Been a while. He was against Barrios. Got that draw on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson undercard. Huge gap in experience. When he loses, he usually loses by a majority or split decision. Did that with Cody Crowley. I think there's good value on Abel Ramos against Tamir Smalls because he is definitely gatekeeping a path for Smalls towards bigger and better things. So this could be a definitely a good fight on the undercard. Justin, any thoughts on all this shit?
No, I think you broke down all the shit. I'm just the main event's the big key for me. The rest of it'll be decent, but the main event's the big seller. But I would say there's going to be some good value on the undercard, but I'm just waiting for the main event. But I do think I agree with you on that one, though. I think Ramos is way more than a dog in that fight. I think he's got a good chance to win.
I kind of feel like I did with, excuse me, with Albright last night, where it was closer to a 50-50 in the way I broke it down, and you just take the guy who's an underdog at that point as pure value. And I think Ramos is paying better than 3-1 as an underdog in this one, so it might be worth it to hop on that train. But the main event, Emanuel Navarrete taking on Eduardo Nunez. We're going for all of the marbles here. Well, not all of them. I think 2 of the belts that are existing at 130 pounds. Navarrete lucky to have his after that fight with Charlie Suarez, where that cut could have easily been called by a punch. I think Suarez took some step aside to make this fight, but both guys are punchers. But Nunez and his knockout streak not only broken, but broken in the last 2 fights. So yeah, you might have a little bit of questions about his power now. Navarrete, we know he can punch. We've seen him, and again, seen him at the top level against real punchers, but we don't know how much he has left at this point in time because he's been in so many wars throughout his career. He just swinging for the fences too. Struggles with weight. It's he's a real crapshoot trying to figure out this guy and what he might bring. I do believe no matter what, this fight is going to be tremendously entertaining. But I have a hard time picking in this one, Des, because I don't know exactly where each guy is at this point in time. Like, I feel like their recent performances have brought about more questions than answers.
It's Navarrete we're talking about on Nunez.
Yeah, but yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's a hard one to pick. And it all depends on what type of Navarrete turns up. As usually, I think it all depends if Navarrete makes the weight right, gets at the right weight. I think Navarrete beats Nunez, but he's got to have a good camp, and he's got to have done the weight right. It's very important that for Navarrete. Nunez is a good fighter, but I think Navarrete's got the X factor. I think he fights like a real Mexican. I think no, I think I'm going to go with Navarrete, but again, I have to add the caveat. It's all about how he does the weight and if he's suitable at that weight.
Yeah, because he lost. God, who was it that he lost to? Was it Baranchek?
Yeah, Baranchek. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he came back down and had the Suarez fight. He did have the win over Oscar Valdez, but I really felt like Valdez was kind of shot to shit at that point in time. He had the draw with Hobson Conceição. So if you look at that Suarez fight was changed to a no contest. So right now, actually, in his last 4 fights, Emanuel Navarrete is basically 1-1-2. So that's fairly interesting.
He keeps playing around with the weights, though, doesn't he, mate? He keeps weight hopping, and he is a little bit of a crackerjack. And guys like him, they like their food, they like getting on it, they like to party, and because they can punch and they can fight, they think they could keep pushing the envelope. But I think he learned his lesson against. Is it Baranchek that beat him? I always get Baranchek. Yeah. He learned his lesson against Baranchek, and I think it livened him up a little bit. I still think the Valdez fight was a good win, and the one after that, he showed he might be getting the weight right. If he comes in at the right weight, he's going to be a very hard man to beat because he's stubborn. He can punch. He throws a lot of punches. He's a real. Who was it? I think it was. What's Devin Haney's dad called, Matty?
A pimp?
No, what's his name?
Bill?
Whatever his name is. Yeah, Bill Haney. I think he'd done an interview recently, and he said Hispanic fighters have lost their identity. They've all got softer and they're prettier, and they seem to be a lot slicker and more technically aware. And it's about not getting hit. Well, Navarrete's the old-fashioned Hispanic fighter. He's quite happy. He'll come in wearing a cowboy hat, riding a horse, and he'll have a fight with you. He could fight in a phone box. I'm a big fan of Navarrete. He reminds me of the Hispanic fighters we used to get in the 80s and the 90s. He's a bit of a throwback as we are in 2026. I think if Navarrete, I keep saying it, if he does the weight right, he has a good camp, he's switched on, and he's at the right weight, I think he's a hard night's work for Nunez. I think he's a real hard night's work.
All right. Good pick there. Where are you going on this one, James?
Well, Navarrete is a bit of a juggernaut, isn't he? And similar to Joe Joyce, actually. I feel like there's a ultimate shelf life on that style. And once they crack, they tend to stay diminished, I think. He does absorb a lot of punishment, but I've actually never seen Nunez fight. I've just had a quick look at his record. 27 KOs from 29 wins isn't bad at all. And winning the title by UD in Japan says a lot, I think. But yeah, again, Navarrete, big, strong, unorthodox, awkward. He's sailed close sometimes. I remember he got knocked down by Liam Wilson a couple of years ago. Went on to win in the later rounds. He just pours it on, and he will eventually get cracked. But whether that's in this particular fight, who knows? I couldn't actually speak to Nunez, so I couldn't really pick. But similar to Des, I like watching Navarrete fight. He throws caution to the wind, he backs his chin, and he backs his engine as well. So,
all right, Rob, what'd you say?
Yeah, I've liked Navarrete as well. I agree with Des, like he comes and has a fight with his face. I would agree with what Bill Haley was saying as well about the Hispanic fighters losing their identity. I mean, I think that's why a guy like Pitbull Cruz's stock is so high. I mean, he would have been on the poor side, quality wise, based on Latino fighters of years gone by. But he's still a throwback to that style, which is why he's entertaining. and he can punch, and Navarrete's has that DNA, like where he fights with his face a lot of the time. He'll take two to give one. But I'm with James a bit that I think there's a bit of an expiration on that style as well. There's only so many times you can go and have fights like that each one of them takes a bit away from you. So unless Navarrete has kind of Orlando Salido staying powers, then we don't know. Yeah, I think I'd probably age Nunez by decision on this, but can't really pick him either way. You know that way.
That's where I am. That's kind of why I wanted to go to this fight, because I just thought it was going to be so entertaining, and it was and two Mexican kids right near the border. Like it would have been a really fun environment for sure. I mean, those guys know how to get down. But I don't know, Justin. I think if despite the last two fights going to decisions for Nunez, I kind of feel like if Navarrete has slowed down, if he is on the decline, just his tendency to throw those big, wide uppercuts coming from nowhere, from distances that make no sense, going in against a real puncher in Nunez, I think that might end up being the story of how this fight ended. Just a hunch.
Well, I think Navarrete has looked like shit. I think he is cracked, and I think he is on the slide, and I think Nunez is – I don't know – I wouldn't say he was going to stop him, but we got to remember Suarez was really laying it on Navarrete. He was
– well, and he should have got that TKO.
Navarrete – Suarez was going to win – was winning that fight. He was laying – and you got to remember Suarez was a random-ass, out-of-nowhere, like almost 40-year-old cop that they dragged over – for an easy defense because it was a mandatory. They had to fight him.
Yeah, he'd been on top rank undercards, but he'd just been a nobody.
And Navarrete looked like shit, and Suarez was putting it on him. Nunez is a million times better than Suarez. I think Nunez is going to beat Navarrete. I think Navarrete is cracked. I don't think he's not. I wouldn't say he's a shell of what he was. He's not that bad yet, but he's there. He's on the other side. He hasn't looked good in a while. I agree with you. Valdez was done. When he beat Valdez. Valdez had nothing left. He fought Conceição's good, but he's not like a world beater. That was a war. Suarez, for me, sums up, I think, where Navarrete. That, to me, wasn't a bad night for Navarrete. I think that's kind of where he's at now. He doesn't take the weight seriously enough. I don't know if he lives the life as well as some you need to, especially when
he doesn't. He's junk.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys.
And when you're bouncing up and down. So I like Sugar. I think Sugar's at this point in his career just has a little bit more. But it's also one of those deals. Navarrete, you would not be surprised either if he didn't land some
he could
crazy
land one of those uppercuts from nowhere,
random shot, and Nunez goes down. I just think Nunez will win. That's my pick. I think he'll have more. But it would be awesome if they both go down and they both get up. That would make. I think it's going to be a good fight. Nobody's going to get blown out. Nobody's going to box on the back foot and dominate like we saw the shit this week. We're not going to see a Leigh Wood performance. They're going to go to war, and I just think Nunez has more.
Younger, fresher.
Yeah.
And Navarrete's an old 31. He reminds me, I can't think of the fighter. It's killing me, and I can't think of him. He just fell off a cliff. He was a 130-pound fighter. I think he had fought like Francisco Vargas and Mayura. I think he had fought maybe, and he just fell off a cliff. And his last name started with a B. It's just killing me. I can't think of his name right now. You know exactly who I'm talking about too, don't you, Justin?
Starts with a B.
His last name starts with a B.
I don't want to cheat and go to BoxRec. Let me think. You fought Mayura. So if he fought those two guys, that means he was at Hellacious Wars. If he fought Mayura and Vargas. So those were two guys you weren't going to beat easily.
Yep, there you go. I got it.
Where you go?
Miguel Burchelt.
That's it. Yeah, because I think Rob mentioned it. It's only going to last so long. You can't keep fighting with your face unless you are like Rob said, just have this random ass Salido skull that you can just take shots for years, or was it Mayura? All these guys that for some reason just don't get hurt. You're going to get cracked. You can't just keep leading with your head. And then I think Burchelt was also a guy that bounced in between the weights and had issues with different things. So yeah, I still think Sugar will win him.
All right. Yeah, I think I've convinced myself through all this conversation in Nunez. So what do we got? Do we have 2 for Nunez and 3 for Navarrete, or was it the other way around? I think now, James, you were leaning towards Nunez based on just your thoughts on the shelf life of such a style.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way. But again, having not seen him fight, it's a bit of an empty prediction, to be fair. But I would lean that way.
I think Rob leaned Nunez too.
Okay, maybe we're 4-1 then. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll see. And I think it's close. I think we're talking like that. I think Navarrete's the underdog in this, but he's paying inside of 2-1. It's like not like massively wide as far as the odds go. So, but yeah. So that was a good discussion. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Nah, that about does it. So that was a fun episode. We've enjoyed you guys. Had Rob hopped in here, Dez, James, Justin. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And we'll be back next week to do a review of all this stuff, talk about some stuff coming up. But we got to remember these Zuffa cards are going to be happening on Sunday evenings too. So there's going to be a good handful of weeks here and there where we're talking about something that's only going to be a handful of hours away. So stay tuned for those weeks. And one of them is going to be 2 weeks from today with Jaya Fataya in his Zuffa debut taking on Brandon Glanton in a fight where if Glanton can get through the first 6 or 7 rounds, I think it starts to look a lot more interesting on paper in the ring than it does on paper early. So, but I thank all you guys for joining us, and we'll see you folks next week.